Seattle with Ruggles wide open.
Good left by Hagler.
And they brawl in the center of the ring.
He's going to place it in trouble.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
Muhammad Ali gamely fights back.
Unbelievable! Unbelievable!
We're here today with Warren Campbell.
Hey.
Warren Campbell has done so much. I've known him so many years, and I really want to thank you, Warren. I know you've been around, you've been interviewed 1,000 times.
Yeah.
Played music with every big name. And you're here. That's great. I really appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, where else would I be?
Well, you got
Right
no
here.
place to go, man. You know,
No,
are you
I'm
lonely
here
now?
all the time.
Well, when you say where else I would be, but I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Oh, man, this is my pleasure.
Thank you. And, obviously you're in the music business besides what other hobbies you have, but you won 9 Grammys. Is that what it is?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if so there's an argument, right? You have Grammys, the little statues, and then they send you these Grammy plaques. And there's like this ongoing debate for years, like what counts and what doesn't count. The plaques. And so I looked on Wikipedia and it said I had 9 Grammys. Well, I know I have 4 statues, but I have like 17 of those plaques. I don't know where they got the number 9 from, but I don't know who put that up there.
Well, I heard when you won your first Grammy, I don't know who it was, but someone said, your music manager, and he said to you, what are you celebrating for? Get back to work.
Oh yeah,
There's a lot more to do.
My publisher at the time, his name was Big John Platt.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, listen, don't be celebrating this. Like, let's get to work. Ain't saying that there's no time to celebrate. Which, that was good and bad because I never took time to reflect on the accomplishments that the things that I accomplished during that time until much later. And now I missed a lot of that time. It was like 20 years went by, and I'm like, oh, what the time? You have all these things you did, but you never really took time to absorb it and take it in. You were just going the whole time. And you look up, you got all these things that you did, but I barely remember doing them.
Well, it's like a boxer who wins a title. There's so much more to go. Now you got to prove yourself even more and grow from that and get hungrier. And there's a big test there because once you reach that success, a lot of the hunger goes away with a lot of fighters.
Yeah, that's true. The same thing. And it's funny because there's so many parallels when it comes to life with that parallel with boxing. That's a lot. But, once you get that first taste of success, you do sort of lose your edge a little bit. And that's kind of what Big John was saying. There's no time.
Yeah, but I think in music, it's a little different. You could stay hungry because you love what you do. And
but then there's a fight, though. You're fighting for chart positioning, sales, attention. There's a lot of things that you fight for. I don't have to fight to play music. I can do that for free at home all day long. But, to take my music to the marketplace and be competitive, with other, producers and artists and whatnot, that's a fight. Yeah,
that's like beyond being an artist.
Oh, way beyond. Yeah, it's like you got to it's like getting in the gym, training. My wife, she sings, but before she does an album, she has to go in the gym. Like she's working out now every day because she knows she's working on an album. So it's like I got to train, I got to get my, all that stuff. It's very, 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 very parallel and similar to boxing like that.
You also had a reality show for a little while, or how many years was that happening?
8 years.
8 years.
8 years. Yeah, we did. We did 6 seasons, 6.5 seasons of one show, and then we did another show. The first season was the Mary Mary show. It was my wife and her sister.
Oh, okay.
And I was involved with that. And then the next show we did was just my family, me, my wife, and my kids. We did.
Well, nowadays reality TV is like, it seems like everyone is trying to get a reality show, whether it's on themselves or on some interesting people that they know to produce. Now, how did it all start? What kind of advice you could give, like a young artist or producer that wants to possibly do a reality show?
Oh,
I mean, what is
well, for me, I didn't set out to do it to be on the show at all.
How did it happen?
Well, my wife's manager at the time was seeing that there was a lot of these shows popping up. We're talking about 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And she kept asking them to do it, and they would not do it. They said no for like 3-4 years. Like, I'm not going to do it. Finally, that manager, they ended up not working with her anymore. They hired this new guy, and that guy was able to convince them to do the show. So, they said, okay, we'll do it.
Well, when you say convince them, who's them?
My wife and her sister, Mary.
Oh, the Mary show. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
Mary. They were not interested in doing that, just because they saw the other shows that were like, kind of crazy.
Yeah.
So
what made them
I think
convinced to do
what
it?
happened was, by them saying no for so long, they kept throwing out little carrots like, okay, well, we'll give you this much money, or we'll give you that much money, or you can do this. They didn't really care about the money, but when they said we'll give you final cut, which means like, we can't put anything on the show that you don't allow.
Yeah, that's important.
Then they said, okay, we'll do it. And so they did 6 seasons of that show, and it was amazing. I would say to anybody who's trying to do that, any young person trying to be a reality show star or whatever that is,
Or producer.
but being on the show itself, you have to be, and the people that you're with on the show with, you guys have to have a great relationship and know going in that it's just TV. Like, sometimes you're doing things and saying things that's not even real. It's called reality, but some of that stuff is not actual reality. Like, if I walk in a room and I'm just, I'm in my house, I got cameras there, but I'm in my house, I'm doing my thing. I walk in a room and say something to my kid, and somebody else, wait, can you do that again? I'm like, no, I'm not gonna do it again.
That's reality right there.
Yeah, but that, like, if you're gonna get what you got, but I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna fake it again. But a lot of times, it's like scripted reality. So they say, oh, I heard you just say this to this guy. Can you say it again this time? Can you get more mad? And can you? So you got a lot of that, and we just didn't want to do that.
Were you on Mary?
I was a producer on the show, and I was on the show.
On the show, and then when that stopped, you went right into the Campbell one?
Yeah, I wanted to.
Campbells?
No, actually, I didn't go right into it, but my kids were saying, when are we going to do the show again? Can we do the show again? I'm going, show's over. They really liked it.
Oh, they were on the Mary?
They were on the Mary show, yeah.
Yeah, you can't say no to your kids if they want to do a show on.
Yeah, well,
Daddy, come on, Daddy.
Like, can we do it again? It was fun. I said, you guys really want to do it again? I said, yeah. So I picked up the phone, called somebody, a friend of mine, and D'Angela Proctor. She was at TV One at the time, and I called her. I said, listen, I have this idea about doing a show just on my family, and she green-lit it on the spot. I said, okay,
Yeah.
let's do it. And I think 3 or 4 months later, we were filming.
You spoke to your wife about it before you went there, right?
No, I didn't.
It wasn't just
actually.
you and the kids that went there and got the green light?
Well, no, I actually called. I didn't tell my wife first. I just
You
called.
wanted to get the green. All right.
And then when she said, yeah, I want to do it, I told my wife, listen, D'Angelo wants to do the show. I knew my wife would want to do it because that's what she does. She's always looking for the next opportunity, the next show, whatever. So,
What was your big thing you wanted to have your audience learn from with the Campbells?
with that show, we wanted to show specifically black families, because if you look at the narrative that's been laid out there in the world, is that most black families are broken. Like, there's no dad. The dad is off in jail or on drugs, or the mom's in drugs, just one parent, or there's like a lot of craziness. But I'm like, I see that story and that narrative being told in the news and the media a lot. I'm like, I didn't grow up like that. I grew up around mothers and families with a mother and father. The father had a job and career like my whole life. So there was certain broken families, but there's not more broken families in the black community. So I wanted to show that. Like, let's show a real family how I grew up. I grew up with my mother and father. My father grew up in a broken home in the 50s, but he was like the only person he knew like that in his neighborhood. everybody else had a family. He was like the only one.
Wow.
You know, so it wasn't like a normal thing. So I wanted to show, like, you know, the family dynamic in the black community, and it was really cool to do that, show the issues that we may have as being a family raising, you know, 3 kids. My oldest is 16, and my boy is 10. My youngest is 8. So they'll show that being...
Where were you living? Where was the house?
My house where I live now.
Right now, yeah.
Yeah. And so we let the cameras come in our home and show us raising our kids, working. My wife doing so much. You know, she did a radio show. She's on tour. She's the first lady of our church. I'm producing records, raising the kids, and pastoring the church, you know, and running a studio at the time. So it was a lot of things going on, a lot of stuff to see.
How's the pressure? Is there pressure doing that? Do you feel like, wow, man, I don't want to do this today?
Yeah, there's always...
Well, they don't do it like every day, do they? 7 days a week they're there?
Well, it's scheduled, but they have to be there at least 2-3 times a week. You're
Okay.
you know, being followed around. But there were some days I didn't want to be bothered, you know, like the day that I forgot they were there. And I came downstairs in my underwear, and there's cameras, like, you know...
You
like,
forgot?
Oh my God, I forgot they were even there. I'm going downstairs to get some orange juice, man, and like you guys are in my house again?
So
my God.
they have the key?
No, my wife knew. She was downstairs
Oh.
doing, but I didn't. I forgot, you know. So
Did they show that episode?
no, because we had Final Cut.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
So what else you do? Music, TV shows, producer,
Yeah.
artist.
I wouldn't say artist, but
Artist, no, you're a musician.
I'm a musician, but not an artist. There's no, well, until previously there wasn't an album with my name on it. I did an album, but it was...
Well, there's no album with a lot of artists out there. They haven't got their break yet or album out there, but I would think, you know, I consider myself an artist because I'm always looking to create something, whether it's music in my mind.
I'm an artist in the, I guess in the definition, but I'm like not commercially. There's no like Warren Campbell sings, you know, greatest hits from Cats or something like that. There's no Warren Campbell artist album like that. I did do a compilation last year where I took a bunch of artists that I work with and they did songs on this album that I produced. But I'm an artist in the fact that I am a musician.
Yeah. And you've worked with, like, what, Kanye and Alicia Keys, right?
Yeah.
Yolanda Adams.
Yeah.
Mos Def.
Mos Def. M-O-S, yeah.
Mos Def. What's that? I don't
The
know
rapper,
the guy.
Mos
I've
Def.
heard the name, man, but, you know, I'm a rock and roll guy.
He's the most deaf.
Brandy.
Yeah, Brandy.
I heard you had an experience. You played, you were like a musician, a keyboard player, right? When you were playing with Brandy.
Oh, yeah, I started out in Brandy's band when her first album, she was 15 when it came out and blew up. Like, she sold like 5-6 million records her first time out, and we went on tour, and I was in her band.
Was that like your first big, like, break as a musician?
No. Before that, I had already been doing a lot of studio work in the studios. I had just never done a tour. So most times people do tours and they want to get off the road and do studio work.
Yeah.
I was the other way around. I have been doing studio work for years, since I was 13. And a guy named Kenneth Crouch, who was one of Brandy's producers, he's an amazing keyboard player as well and songwriter. But he was, you know, playing with Lenny Kravitz and all kind of different people. And he was putting Brandy's band together. He says, hey, you want to, you know, get on the road? I was like, yeah, I've never done that before. I want to do it. So that's how I got in there. I did that one tour. That was it.
But that ultimately led you to become a producer, right?
Well, I was
Songwriter.
I was
producer.
basically writing songs and trying to get in the door.
Yeah.
And so what happened was, on that tour, I wrote some songs, and I asked Brandy would she, like, you know, cut a song, you know. And so I take that song to a guy named Big John, and I had demoed it first. He says, man, I really like this song. What are you going to do with it? I said, I'm going to get Brandy to do it. Now, at the time, you know, Brandy's huge. He was like, yeah, right. How are you going to get Brandy to sing the song?
But you're a keyboard player, right?
Yeah, but I don't think he understood, like, the dynamic of our relationship. So she came over to my house. We went to my mom and dad's garage. She sung the song, you know. And I went back maybe 2 weeks later and played it for him. Like, I got Brandy on the song. He was like, what in the world? Like, how'd you... Because the process of getting something like that to happen was kind of like rigorous. It was like a lengthy, hurry up and wait, rigorous type of process to get an artist to cut. You know, you got to pitch the song to the company, and then they had to send it to the artist. The artist lives with it for a while and says, okay, I'll do it. They set up a studio session. The people from the company have to be there and all that. I cut through all that. And then there's paperwork, you know, pay this guy half of his money and all these things, right? Lawyers involved. I cut through all that and just say, come in my garage and cut the song. And that's kind of what we did. It's ironic that that's how people get things done now. It's like they just cut through all that and just come over and let's cut the song instead of going through all this red tape. But then, you know, he was like, whoa, and he signed me. He gave me a publishing deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
How,
Big John.
how heavy,
Big
at that
John.
moment, at that time, how heavily were you into God and your faith at that time?
Really heavy. I wasn't, and I love God and had a relationship with God the Father, but I did not attend a church at that time. I hadn't, at that point, I hadn't gone to church in maybe a couple years. And I didn't go to church again for another, like around 17, 18, I just stopped going to church.
How old were you at that time when you did?
I was
Brandy?
18, 19, right around there. I was, 18 or 19. Yeah, because it was 94. So I hadn't turned 19 yet. So I was 18. And no, I take that back. I was 19. It was the end of 94 going to the top of 95. So 95, I turned 20. So I didn't go back to church or join a church again till I was 25. So I spent 7 years kind of away, 7, 8 years where I wasn't planning on going back to church at all. But this girl that I was trying to talk to, if I wanted to see her, she was always at church. Like, always.
Yeah.
So I go and I was like, hey, listen, let's go hang out. She was, on Sunday, let me take you out, you know. Well, come pick me up at church. So I would go when it was over, wait for her to come out, and then we go hang out. And she was like, I have to go back to church. I'm like, you just got out of church. She's like, yeah, but we have an afternoon service. I'm like, okay, when is that over? She was like, well, it starts at 3 o'clock and it's over around 4:30. I was like, can we hang out then? She said, yeah, but then I got to go back to church. I'm like, what do you mean? We have night service. That starts at 7 o'clock. So they go at 11, at 3, and at 7 o'clock. I'm like, Jesus, this is crazy. So I ended up having to stick around just to, you know, and I kind of fell back into it and ended up, you know, being like, man, I really missed this. And consequently, I ended up marrying her. She's my wife now. You know, she was the reason I got back into church.
That was Erica?
That was Erica, yeah.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were going to go. I didn't know that was Erica. I was waiting for you to say, and I was going to say, what happened to this girl? And then you met Erica. You know, I was going to say, be careful what you say, Warren.
No, you know, Erica is actually my first girlfriend. I had no girlfriends before her. I had girls that were friends.
Yeah, well, we got you.
But I never called anybody my girlfriend ever. I just wasn't.
A nice girl you're talking about. You remember in Goodfellas?
This is, she's a nice girl.
Yeah. Goodfellas. Remember what the mother told Joe Pesci? When are you going to settle down with a nice woman?
With a nice woman.
And what's he say?
I don't know. What'd he say?
He goes, Ma, I settled down every night with a nice woman. And then I tell him to go home.
Well, you know, my mother raised me a little differently. She would say, listen, you're too young to be tied down, you know, like, so just don't allow no girl to tell you, it's just me and you. You're too young for that. She said, go around the world once, talk to everybody twice. And boy, that's what I did. I talked to everybody 2-3 times. But yeah, I just wasn't open to that exclusive boyfriend, girlfriend. So I ran. Anytime a girl would get close, say, let's be exclusive, or let's just don't talk to me any other females. I'm like, I just wouldn't really talk to her anymore.
When did the bell ring in your head, or when you met Erica, when you started getting closer to the Lord at that time? How long from that day till you say, you said to yourself, I got to marry this girl?
I knew I was going to marry her the first few months. I knew I wanted to marry her. But,
You dated for 5 years, didn't you?
We dated for 5 years, yeah.
5 years?
Yeah, but I was 20 when I met her. I was 19 or 20 when I met her.
5 years.
And so I got married at 25 years old, which is still very young.
But she was in church seriously for 5 years?
Yeah, all the time. I didn't join her church, but I would go frequently, at least out of the month, I'd go there at least twice and just to hang out, and be there.
I mean, I hate to go where I want to go.
Yeah.
But, maybe we can learn something from it. Where there had to be a lot of temptation out there.
What do you mean? Temptation to do what? What do you mean, Phil?
Well, we're told as a Christian, you don't have a relationship, a serious relationship, I guess, physically with a woman.
You talking about having
married.
Sex?
Yeah, having sex.
You can't say that? Is they're gonna bleep
No,
us
we
out
can
or
say
something?
that, man. I'm just 5 years. You waited around for 5 years?
Not for her. No, I had all kind of stuff going on. I didn't say I was perfect.
No, hold on, wait. You went out with her for 5 years?
Yeah.
Exclusively?
Exclusively, yes, in quotations. But I did have other outside interests in females. First of all, the first 2 years, we weren't exclusive at all. We weren't even.
Okay, all right.
I take that back. Yeah, the first 2 years was kind of like, we were dating, but I had other women. I had other girls. And even though when we were getting serious, I still had other friends I talked to and see, So we weren't I definitely was not squeaky clean.
All right.
You know what I mean? At all. But, it was a process. It was a 5-year long process.
When in those 5 years, when did you fall in love? I mean, real love, man.
Yeah. I mean.
When? You said you went 2 years.
I mean, being in love with somebody doesn't mean you automatically stop the things that you do. Especially the habitual things you do. Like when you get saved and say, I'm saved now. God saves your soul, but he does not save your mind. You don't forget. If you smoke weed every day and you get saved, you don't forget how to roll a joint. You know what I'm saying? You know exactly. That's why the Bible says you have to renew your mind every day. Don't be conformed to the world, but be renewed, be transformed by the renewing of your mind. So it's a process of sanctification that has to happen over time. And same thing with love. I was in love, but I had a lot of women that I liked as well. I think everybody is born. The Bible says we are shapen with iniquity. Iniquities are like the bad habits that cause you to sin, right? Some people's iniquity is they eat a lot. They just eat they're like glutton. You know what I mean? I think my iniquity, and the thing is, people are born with it. It's things they're born with, right, and shapen with. That's why people say especially in the church, they get kind of weird when people say they're born gay. I'm like, it's possible that you could be born gay, but it doesn't matter how you're born. You still got to be born again. That's the whole point, right? So I think I was born a player. I was born a pimp. I was born it was almost like hereditary. My grandfather was like that. My grandfather had women everywhere. My grandfather grew up in the Bronx, Castle Hill. This guy, he said, man, I might have 50 kids all over New York. I don't know. I'm like, wow. My father wasn't like that though. My father was more straight-laced, and his first woman he ever was with was my mother. You know, but me, I picked it up from my dad, from my grandfather.
Hey, Prince, I wonder if Prince is a producer off camera right now, but your grandfather might have known his grandfather.
Possible. Solomon Burke.
The Bronx?
Solomon Burke was his grandfather.
I know. Yeah, we talked about that.
And he had like 50 kids, right, or something?
I don't know. There's a lot of those guys in that era.
Yeah, they all. But back then, that's what they did. They didn't have cable TV. They didn't even that's what they did. But I'm saying I took on that whole thing, and it took a while for me to like wean myself off of that, and like really, something I have to fight through. It's almost like it could be. I don't think it was with me, but it could be an addiction. You know what I mean? Just sex and the women and the attention, because it wasn't really just the sex. It was just the attention of different women. Like I like to have different conversations with different women all the time. I still do. I have a lot of females around me. It's just converted into something much more, family friendly, and it's not the intent behind it is not what it was before. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about them like that. But I enjoyed female company, and that would turn into like a sexual relationship, even with females that were just my friends. We would like have sex and then go back to being friends, like it never happened. I had tons of relationships like that, but nothing real like I had with my wife.
So, but you had to reach a day when you had to put it to an end, all coming to an end.
Yeah.
But yet not be like depressed about it. I mean,
unfortunately for me, that day came, while I was in my marriage. Like I was in my marriage with a baby who was almost a year old. I'm about 3.5 years or 4 years into my marriage when I finally woke up and I'm like, yeah, I'm tripping. I'm like, my wife would come home from the road. That's back when we used to have those, I don't know if you remember those two-way pagers, the Motorola two-way.
What do you call beepers or something?
Time port. Well, you could text the thing on there.
Okay, all right.
She would hit me and say, I'm home. I'm like, yo. But what I didn't do, I never lied to her and tell her I was over here doing something. I was really somewhere else. I'm like, no, I'm at the strip club. She would come to the strip club from the airport. I'll come out and say, hey, baby, how you doing? Give her a kiss. Go out. I say, see you at home. I'm going back inside to hang with the fellas,
This is Erica.
Yeah. She had to put up with that for the first 3 years of our marriage. Like, that didn't happen all the time, but that's just who I was then. And she waited for me to see. My marriage was like wearing my dad's suit. Like I had to grow into it. It was too big for me, and I didn't understand who she was in my life. I didn't understand anything about the vows that I said on that day. I just wasn't. I knew I loved her very much. I knew if I didn't marry her, I'm gonna lose her. And I don't want that to happen because I know she's the one for me. She's the one I want to spend my life with. She's my best friend. But I had this other side of me that I do all these other things.
And she knew all about that other side, or she just knew you went to strip clubs?
I told her. I mean, she didn't know about that. She knew I went to strip clubs, but then when it came to the other women, I told her about that stuff later. I was like, I told her everything I had going on.
Oh, okay.
And, we talked about it. I mean, she was clearly upset with me, but...
Did you give it all up out of guilt?
Well, yeah, partly. You're guilty, but partly, you realize you grow up. And I start growing out of it and start, as you grow, you learn different things about yourself. I'm like, man, like, what am I doing? You just kind of wake up. There's like there's an instance in scripture where it talks about this. People know this story as the Prodigal Son. And this guy left his dad's home, took his inheritance early, and went and squandered all his money, moved to a far country, another country, and lost all the money and was basically living like a peasant. And he was like hanging out with pigs in the pig pen, basically. And the Bible says all of a sudden he came to himself. Like he just realized, like, wait, what am I doing? I'm like, I'm royalty. My dad is a billionaire. I'm out here hanging out with pigs and
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I've heard that story.
So basically I was in my life, I'm hanging out with pigs. At home I have a beautiful wife, beautiful home. My daughter's, at the time 11 months, getting ready to turn 1. I'm like, and I'm living a pig life. You know what I mean? So I just kind of woke up one day like, yeah, this is stupid. Why am I doing this? So she was on the road, and I flew to where she was. I think it was South Carolina. And I flew out there and I told her what was going on. And her response was, "I'm mad as hell, but I'm not leaving you." And basically the grace that she showed me and the mercy she showed me mirrored God's mercy towards us. You know what I'm saying? And it just really started to heal me from there. And I just started finding my way back. And, and now we've been married 19 years now. So, I mean, that was a crazy moment, but we got so much closer after that, And most guys don't do that. They'll run. They'll lie. They'll do anything but tell their wife, But your wife is supposed to be the one that can help heal you from that process. Mm-hmm. She's the one. If I'm having a rough day, she's the one that allows me to come home. Because every man, we don't talk about it a lot, but men, we need a safe place to come home and fall apart. If we can't do it on our job, we can't be weak anywhere. This is the person that you can be weak in front of and expose all of your insufficiencies, your indiscrepancies, you know what I'm saying, all that stuff too. If you can't do it with her, man, you're screwed. What do you have? You know what I'm saying? So she allowed me to come home and fall apart and help. She helped put me back together again. And man, I just,
Well, God had big plans for you, man. You had to, you had to reach that point, because what I didn't mention, I don't think I mentioned it in the beginning, but you're also a pastor. Yeah. And you have your own church, California Worship, right? Or Cali Worship?
We call it Cali Worship for sure, but California Worship Center, yeah.
Yeah. So, God's plan, that you were going to be doing this. And I once told you in here, and I remember when I said it to you, you go to me, what are you, a prophet now or something, prophesizing or something? Because I honestly feel, and I see it happening, man, that you're going to be like the biggest, I'll say black pastor, preacher of our time. It's just a matter of time. Because I think that you have a way of getting through to me. I'm starting to listen to you. And I'm starting now, yeah. I'm talking about your services. I'm starting to okay. When you come in here, I listen to you a little bit in the gym. You're usually wrong. But no, when I take my night walks or whatever, I said, man, I want to just start listening to his, because I know it's tough being I'm sure what you do. Yeah. And it's a learning process, and there's nerves in there at times. I mean, it's only normal.
It's all that stuff, man.
And what I get from you, maybe some of it has to do with me knowing you, but you get, I get it. You really get right to the point. And when you said, I listened to one service the other day about some guy JoJo. I don't know if you remember a guy that was JoJo. Yeah, see,
I was talking about Joseph. I was calling him JoJo.
I don't know, a guy that was, no, you called him JoJo. I think he was promised a job and never got it after a month, and then a year went by, and then 10 years went by. Oh, JJ.
It was a story. It's an illustrated story about a guy named JJ who wanted to be in radio.
Yeah, radio, and he thought he had the job. Everybody was all happy, but a month went by, a year went by, 10 years went by. Next thing you know, JJ died. Yeah. And, the way you were explaining the whole service there and the reasons, you said, does anybody here feel like they're JJ or living like JJ? Yeah. I was walking at midnight down Valley Circle in the dark, Wow. And I said right to myself, I'm JJ.
Wow.
I said, I'm JJ, because you said it. The minute you said anybody here feels like they're JJ, I said, I'm JJ. I said, wow, look at this, man.
Wow, you never know. You know how long ago that was, too? That message that you listened to was probably 3 years ago.
There's a reason, man.
It's 3 years
everything.
Ago, yeah, it's weird, man. You never know. There's so much that goes into even like, and Prince would know this. Prince is a gospel preacher. There's a lot that goes into preparing. Sometimes you do 15 hours of research, preparing a 40-minute or a 30-minute message. You know what I mean? Because people are hanging on your every word, and you don't want to get it wrong. And nowadays, it wasn't like this in the early days when my dad was preaching, but now you have people Googling and fact checking in the service while you're.
Yeah.
There was one preacher who was with our church, great preacher, but his first time preaching at our church didn't go too well, right? He preached again a couple times after that, and it was amazing. But the first time, didn't go too well because he said something that wasn't factual, right? And it wasn't even a big deal, but he lost everybody after that because they knew that what he said wasn't true. So basically, what he said was, there was a guy who wrote the song "You Are So Beautiful to Me."
Joe Cocker.
We know it's Joe Cocker. He said Stevie Wonder wrote the song. He said, it made me wonder, how does he know what's beautiful and he's blind? He can't see. He kept going on about it. And I'm going like,
You sure Stevie didn't write the song, though?
No, he did not write that song.
Okay.
No, he didn't write the song. But he just had his facts wrong. And so he had all these other points that were amazing.
It sounded like he was confused. Remember that other song Stevie Wonder did that was similar to it? What? Isn't she lovely? Right?
Yeah, but he was saying.
Maybe that's what he was talking about.
No, because he went through the lyrics.
Yeah, he was still wrong.
He was wrong.
The guy was like, maybe, he just wasn't all there mentally, but...
I mean, but the point is, everybody knew it. And so no matter what he said after that, which was some amazing things, they just... Yeah, he had lost them. It's so hard, man.
It's just like a bump in the road, man.
It's so hard to get him back after that. I mean, this guy took time because he was talking about faith. The Bible talks about having faith the size of a mustard seed. He took the time to plant and tape a little mustard seed under every chair, and it's 800 seats in there. Under every seat, he went and taped one under there. Then he went and had people to put the mustard seed in their hand and hold it, and it was all these things. Yeah. It was great stuff, but because he had said that thing that wasn't true at the beginning, it just deflated the whole thing.
It's too bad people
do that.
People make quick judgments.
Very
just
quick.
Like look at the wall here. See the pictures on the wall here?
I see that one picture. Where is it?
Yeah, okay.
That is not Miles Davis.
That's Miles Davis. No, I know Macca. And
he did not look like that then. Miles Davis would have looked like that in the 90s, maybe.
That was in the 90s.
In the 50s, he was like...
But why you going to the 50s? It's not the 50s, man.
Let's say it's 60s.
No. It's the 80s.
That is not the 80s, man.
It's the 80s, because Macca Foley, he passed, a few years ago. He must have been 60 years old or so.
He's 60? Okay, now this is not making
sense. So right here, he's like 25. So we're going back 35 years.
There's no way that's Miles Davis.
Well, we were trying to find a picture yesterday.
I wanted to say, what does he like from the wall? Like, what's something that stands out in time?
Yeah, we didn't get to that question, but we could do it now.
It's a few things that I always look at when I come to this wall. Muhammad Ali kissing his wife right there.
I've never seen that picture. That's crazy.
Right in the middle there. And then right next to that, you got George and John.
John Lennon, yeah.
The Michael Jackson off the wall thing, I always love that. My eyes always drawn to all the Ali stuff. Anything I see with Ali or Sugar Ray Leonard, the guys that I love.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to that. Every time I see Paul McCartney's right there, Look at Ali again and his brother. Ali over there with the torch. Ali just knocked out George Foreman right there. I love those pictures, man. And then you have like random scattered like gangster pictures like Goodfellas or the one, what's that movie that Scorsese just did a little while ago?
Oh, The Irishman.
The Irishman, all of the things back there.
I got them back there, yeah.
Yeah. I look at all those things.
Yeah, you got a problem with that?
I love that stuff.
Okay.
I don't think you have enough Godfather.
I get him.
In here. My Godfather.
How about that one with Denzel, The Gangster, was it called?
American Gangster? It's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. But the Godfather is my favorite movie of all time.
Godfather 1?
All of them. Now, I didn't really like 3 as much, right? But I just watched it again last week.
Oh, wow.
And there were some things in there I'm going, oh, man, it's actually not as bad as I thought it was. It's good. It's good. It's not
I'm just wondering why you would say that. That must have been when you were on those days you were talking about when you were that other Warren, the wild Warren.
Why you say that?
No, I'm saying like for you to like and love the Godfather movies, it just like doesn't sound like you would say that.
Why?
I don't know, man. Okay,
I love those movies. I can quote them. Matter of fact, my birthday this year.
I'm just
my
wondering
cousin,
why it matters. Like it affects you so much when the world you're in is nothing like that. That's like a white Italian world of gangsters. And
it's the same reason why young white kids love to watch Boys in the Hood. That's more my life, but I love Boys in the Hood, but it's
so
not my
you like
favorite
The
movie.
Sopranos?
I love The Sopranos.
Good. Okay. Good.
Love The Sopranos.
So we got something in common, man.
Yeah. I love that stuff, man.
Tell me how we met. I mean, I heard. I think I have an idea, but how did we meet?
Well, I was working. I might have been 21 at the time. 21, 22.
Maybe that's when Miles Davis took that picture.
Miles Davis was long gone by this time. And I was working with Heavy D. Rest in peace, Hev.
Yeah.
And Hev had lost all his weight. He had a heavy bag in his garage, right?
Yeah.
And he was in there doing this thing. He was showing me stuff. He's like, man, I lost 50 pounds. And I was like, damn, no, it's crazy. So he told me about Paolina. And so he told me about you. And he's like, you should come to the gym. I was like, yeah, I just never got around to it. And then one day, he told me what the name of it was and the whole nine. And one day, me and my dad were driving down Ventura, and we saw the Mike Tyson statue outside the little gym. I said, what the heck is that? And I looked in the door, and I saw the ring in there.
Ventura? No, you're talking about, it wasn't Ventura, right?
Yeah, right here on Ventura. The small gym down the street.
That was the first time I met you?
That was the first time you met me. Yeah. And so I walked in there. And I walked in there. He was like, I'm Phil. I'm like, yo, you're the guy that Heavy was talking about. Yeah. I'm the guy.
Heavy was still around at that time?
Yeah.
I think you're way off, man. With we didn't meet on Ventura Boulevard. Yes,
we did.
It was like Fairfax on the other side of town, or I don't think he came to my La Brea gym because I trained him at my La Brea gym, Heavy.
Yeah, but
big gym.
I didn't come over there though. I didn't come till some years later, and I just happened to drive by there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he told me about it, but I happened to drive by there.
So I remember training you on Fairfax.
No, I never trained on Fairfax.
The small little gym on Fairfax.
Nope, that wasn't me.
Must have been some other guy.
Some other black guy with a red hat.
Yeah.
But no, this is like maybe 2000, 2001, 2.
Like 20 years ago.
Yeah. So I go in there and he showed me how to hit. He's like, do this. Like, can I hit my hand? He's like, oh man. So come in here tomorrow, So I come in, we started training.
Did you tell me when you came in that Heavy sent you?
Yeah.
Or no? Okay.
I said, when you said your name, I knew your name already because Heavy told me your name.
Okay.
Matter of fact, this watch I have on right now, Heavy gave me.
Wow. Oh, that's nice.
Gave me for my 25th birthday. Wow. He was saving it for his son, but he had a daughter.
That's the watch he gave me, and I gave it back to him. Because I checked it out. It wasn't real.
You hear that, Hev? Let the air out of his tires when he's on his way home.
Look, you like The Godfather, you like Sopranos. The first thing I did was see if that was real.
No. So the first thing I did was notice that I thought it was, because I never had a watch this expensive before, right? So I noticed it wasn't working. The thing wasn't moving around. I'm going, it needs a battery.
Mickey wasn't working?
Yeah, Mickey wasn't going around. So I take it to a watch store. I said, man, I think this needs a battery. Where'd you get this? I said, my brother gave it to me. And the guy takes the watch off and starts doing like this with it. He says, oh, no, this is a very expensive watch. You have a very nice brother. I said, oh, cool. He says, no, it's just a self-winding watch. You just have to wind it up. It's automatic. It doesn't need a battery. I'm like, oh. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
So the pass the test, it is real.
That's great, man.
Yeah,
All
man.
right, so we met. You came in the gym. I said,
then the first thing you did was, I remember the first day you
on Ventura, over here
Ventura?
somewhere, right?
right
The one
there,
I had in that one block. Okay, I know.
like a block over right here.
Yeah.
And there was a girl in there. Her name was Dina or Deanna or something like that.
Deanna.
Right. So, first thing you did was you put the sauna suit on me and told me to jump rope. I never really jumped rope before.
Yeah.
I'm sweating like crazy. And he told me to hit the heavy bag. I throw up because keep my arms up like that for so long. I'd never done that before. Then you put a thing on my face, the headgear, and told me to go in the corner and just just try to block Deanna from hitting me.
First day?
The first day. And then that thing didn't have an open face. It had like a face bar on it.
Yeah.
So I couldn't see the
Down,
uppercuts.
yeah.
Man, she hit me so many times in my face and then like my head right here. My hairline was sore for like a week.
Wow.
But he couldn't. He was like, well, don't hit her back. But finally, after like maybe the third round, you said, okay, you can throw jabs at her. And then she couldn't hit me no more after that. But man, just sitting in that corner, he was just, I'm like, this
I
guy's
don't
going to let this girl
remember
beat
that.
me up.
I'll be honest, but like I believe you.
I remember it. I'll never forget it.
I wish you had that on film. Then I'd really believe it. Wow.
But what I did take away from it, man, was like during that time, one, I lost a lot of weight and I gained some skills that I never really forgot. Like it's not like I was using them every day, but after that, I came back in periodically here and there. But the things that I learned, I would always be at the same level.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never forgot how to work the speed bag. You know, when I came back in, I was able to get right back at that, or certain things, you know, that you just don't forget. And so I decided, you know, maybe last year before, you know, I'm like, you know what, I'm just gonna go. I'm just gonna start boxing again, you know. And luckily, I found an old number on you, which happened to be the same number. And then you're still here. So come down. And I started sweating again. Boxing is hard, man. Boxing is really hard.
Your dad's a boxing fan, like a fan of boxing, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
So you growing up, did he you guys sit down and watch the fights at all?
When I was a little kid, I remember watching Hagler.
Hearns or Leonard?
Later, Hagler Leonard, but earlier it was a Hagler and it was on actual TV. It was
Well, he fought Vito Antifermo, the Italian Goodfella guy.
Yeah, I remember watching it with him and his buddies, and they just, you know, I mean, Hagler was murderizing this guy. It was like, you know, and I remember the whole house going crazy. I might have been 5.
He won the title against Alan Minter in England, and Hagler beat him up and knocked him out, and then the crowd went crazy. They were throwing everything in the ring. Was that the fight?
Maybe. I don't know.
Then he had rush out of the ring, but he won. That's when he won the title.
It might be that fight. I'm not sure, but I just remember that was my early recollection of my dad and his friends, you know, watching fights and stuff like that. And it was like crazy. And I kind of fell in love with boxing. Hagler was my guy. Sugar Ray was my guy. I love Sugar Ray, man. Sugar Ray Leonard was my guy.
So you think he beat Hagler when they fought?
Of course. I did. I mean, you know, everybody's, you know, talking about Hagler should have won and that. I'm like,
remember the end of Sugar Ray's career? Did you watch when he got knocked out a couple of times and hurt?
yeah.
That was kind of sad. I think Hector Camacho and Terry Norris is the one that beat him. I think pretty bad.
But I think he was older and shouldn't have been fighting.
Yeah. So,
you know, but listen, however old he is now, I wouldn't fight him. Sugar Ray could be 80 years old. I wouldn't mess with Sugar Ray. I see these videos he puts out now showing people how to throw certain punches. I'm like, yeah, he can still hit.
Sugar Ray, yeah.
I wouldn't. Would you fight Sugar Ray right now?
I'd fight Mike Tyson right now.
You would win?
I'd have a chance, I think.
Really?
I don't know. Yeah, because what I know now, I mean, the guy's going to have a real problem hitting me.
How?
Because I'll move. I'll be ready. I'll just move my head and grab him and spin him and just try to get a lucky shot in there.
Because I'm like, out of all those guys that
No, I'm just saying,
couldn't get away from
what
him,
I know
man.
now, man. If I knew what I knew now, boxing would be easy almost.
Really?
Yeah, because as long as you're into it and you love it,
Yeah.
like, you with your music and your wife.
Yeah. I love boxing. It's just, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. It's easy against the bag when you put somebody in the ring and say, okay, now try to, work those principles, man. It's not easy. It's not easy to get in there and, score or get a good punch on somebody.
Well, if you put in the time you put in to be a producer, the hours and hours and
Yeah. If
and
I was 20 years younger, yeah, I might consider doing that and say, you know what, I'll do some fights. I'll do that. Especially now, knowing what I know now.
Exactly. See, that's my point.
Yeah.
All right. So you, if you had to have a fight, right?
Right.
You had no choice. You're doing it to save a life.
To save a life. What do you mean?
Save a
Like,
life.
Give me a better scenario. What do you mean? Like,
Well, I'm trying to give you one that you had no choice getting
you
out
said
of.
a life. Whose life?
You're someone you care about.
And I have to have a fight?
You have no choice.
Okay.
They kidnap somebody. I don't know, somebody you love, and you got a ransom note.
And said,
If
fight
you don't
me or
fight, no, you got to fight, but you have to. So, let's just start. Let me start over. That's not the way we're going, man. Oh boy, why were you called? First of all, why were you called Smiley? I think I know why.
Why? Why do you think?
Because you're always smiling in here when you're boxing. I say, get that smile off your face. That must be it, right? You smile like now. You just.
When I was a kid, I would not stop smiling, and so they called me Smiley. I mean, even when I was getting ready to get a whooping from my mom, I'd be smiling because it was like a nervous condition. Like somebody would come in and say, it doesn't happen now, but when I was a kid, somebody would say, yo, so-and-so died. I go, I smile. I'm like, man, I got to stop smiling.
Did you ever take a mugshot ever in your life?
Yeah.
Were you smiling?
No. Actually, I was not smiling on the mugshot.
Let me see your mugshot.
I can't even do it now.
Do a mugshot now. Like
I can't do it now. But listen, my mom will be getting ready to whoop me. I'd smile right up until the point she hit me, and I'm crying then. But before that, I'd smile the whole time.
Get that smile off your face.
Man.
And you as a kid, didn't you get into a lot of fights out in the street?
Did. A lot of fights.
Why?
Well, because of my complexion. So other kids, first time I realized I fought a lot started when I was 8. We moved to a suburb of LA when I was maybe 4 years old. And by the time I was 8, we stayed there from 4 to 8. For 4 years we stayed there in Lakewood. I went to a school there. It's not there no more. It was called Cabrillo Lane, all white school. I was the only black kid in the school. And I had never seen white kids before. But those kids had never seen a black kid like that before, right? They made up a game. And the game was, if I touched anybody, whether it be in class or on the playground, they had an imaginary spray and go shh and spray the black off of them because I touched them, right?
Oh, wow.
Now, of course, it was super hurtful as a kid, but I also didn't have any witty comebacks, you know what I'm saying? I would just hit them. I broke so many noses and busted lips and, knocked out teeth. By the time I was 8 and a half, both my knuckles were black. They still are right now. Because I fought so much. Because anytime somebody hurt me or said something weird, I would go to fighting. And so I became known as a kid that could fight. And so everybody, after that, we moved from there back to the hood. And everybody would challenge you. Because then it was about, especially in the gang territory, it was about getting put on a gang. My dad was not having that. Matter of fact, he told me one time, if I ever catch you, if I hear about you trying to get put on some gang or jumped in or whatever they do, I'm going to kill you myself. You ain't got to worry about them. You got to worry about me. So that was enough for me. But because I wasn't affiliated with the gang per se, if you're not with them, you're kind of against them.
Well, they had the Crips around then, right? The Crips and the Bloods.
I grew up in a Crip neighborhood. And so they always thought maybe if I'm not down with them, maybe I'm snitching on them or, whatever. So I had to fight all those guys. Nobody ever knocked me out. I got beat up once by a guy. His name was Beef. Big Beef. Oh, twice. A guy named Beef. The other guy named Corey. He hit me in the face with a brick. Right, he had a big mouse on my eye like this. But I fought.
Did he throw it at you, or he had it in his hand?
Actually, no. He didn't hit me with it. He threw my face onto a pile of bricks, and I hit But I fought a lot. Always fighting. Right up until I was, well up in my teens, 16, whatever. I always fighting. But then after a while, you lose people, and then it wasn't fighting no more. People were getting shot all the time. I was like, well, I don't want any part of that.
Well, let me tell you something. Before I've learned, you came back into my life for, I think it's been over 10 plus years, right? Pretty much since you trained with me, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the phone call, and I remember I didn't know who you were at first, I think.
Mm-hmm. You didn't?
Yeah, I said, Warren who, whatever. Then what you say to make me go, oh yeah, I remember you.
I don't know what I said. What did I say?
I don't know. I was thinking Hammond B3 for some reason. You were the guy that played the Hammond B3. And, that's what I was thinking. Oh,
Really?
yeah, the guy that played the Hammond B3. No? Could that be it?
I don't know, maybe. I don't know. Why would you know that?
I just want to let you know, man, I just heard like a quote saying like, if you see somebody that maybe needs a hand or help, help them, because it's God's way of answering the prayer of that person. You're that person.
Yeah.
That's answering that guy's prayer.
Yeah.
And I think like when you called me and you came back into my life, I kind of needed you, but especially like, being a pastor and the more I'm learning, about your other world, I guess, your life, I guess.
Yeah.
I got so much respect for you, and it's pretty amazing, man. You got to keep it up. Don't like I said, man, you're going to be like the black Joel Osteen.
Well, man, listen, I think.
Hey, are you ready for that? Is that what would you want that? If that was your calling?
It's not the aspiration, but if that's where God leads me towards, and
I think that's where you're going.
So be it. Those things.
I'll be head of security, maybe.
Sure.
No, I don't want that.
You could be knocking people out.
No, just make sure nobody robs.
Nobody robs the church.
Just make sure they don't.
Right. Nobody.
We make sure they belong. Yeah. No, I'm not looking for no trouble, man.
Well, no, I sort of like with music. I just wanted to do good music, man. I didn't think I was gonna ever win. I never thought about winning a Grammy until I won one. I didn't think about winning one again until I won another one. So the thing was, my wife makes fun of me about this all the time because I use this word a lot. She says, like when I make a piece of music, and I've worked on it, I've massaged it, I've mixed it, and I finally got it to where I want it, I say, man, this sounds professional. That's like my thing, because when I was a kid, in my bedroom, I had a Casio keyboard, a little drum machine, and a tape deck, right? And I would play my little track that I made, and I would listen to the radio. I'm like, man, mine doesn't sound professional. I just wanted to be professional. You know what I mean? I wanted to sound professional. And I still, to this day, I'll go like, that sounds professional. And that's the whole, that is the zenith of the entire experience for me, is making the music, getting it to a point where it sounds amazing or professional, and I'm like, oh, this is it. Now when it comes out and people buy it, hear it, love it, that's all downhill for me. I mean, I don't know. I'm not even that much a part of that experience. That's the listener's experience. My experience is making it. I don't listen to it and go like, oh, that was great. After I made it, I'm on to the next thing. Same thing with preaching and pastoring. I just want to do it right. I want to be effective. You know what I'm saying? I want to be a person, what the Bible says, walking worthy of the call. He called me. I want to be a person that I'm worthy of that call. I'm not, I know I'm not perfect. I'm not, as a person, I'm not worthy to be, like John said, I'm not worthy to lace Jesus' sandals. But I want to at least do my part to be the best pastor or preacher or communicator that I can possibly be for me. You know what I mean? For my era, for my generation. And God can look at me and say, yeah, have you considered my servant Warren? Like he did Job, like.
How long have you been pastoring?
I've been pastoring 5 years. I've been preaching since 2009.
Well, when you say preaching, what's the difference?
Well, I wasn't always a pastor. I preached. I was a minister, and I would go to different places and preach. People would invite me to come speak at their churches, but I wasn't an actual pastor yet. I was just a licensed minister.
So 5 years ago you started?
2015.
And you
Easter 2015.
Came home one day and you decided you want to be a pastor?
No.
How does that work?
No, it was kind of a process because the first thing I did was I started a Bible study, and there was this lady that went to my church. Her name was Jackie Horton. Jackie would always come up to me and say, "You should start a Bible study for the music industry, and have people, come over." I'm like, I'm not doing that. I don't know enough about the Bible to do that. Even though I was in seminary at the time, I was in seminary and didn't even know why. I went to seminary and went to at first it was a Bible school because my friends were going. Like my pastor Nissan went and my brother Teddy, they all wanted to go. I was like, all right, I'll go too. It was something to do with my boys, right? Then I got serious and I left that school and went to another school. Now I'm actually in seminary. Then I ended up in Oxford, studying there, all the different places it took me to. Now I'm licensed, and she's like, you should do that. So one day I decided, you know what, I am going to do it. Not for the music industry.
Licensed to what? To be a pastor?
Minister.
Minister, okay.
And so I did it. And one day my bishop asked me, how's the Bible studies going? It's going pretty good. Well, how many people are showing up? I said, about 70 people. He said, well, you should think about the next steps. I said, no, Bishop. I'm not. I knew what he meant. I'm not doing that. He says, well, you should think about that. The 70 people.
That's a lot of people.
It's the average size. It's the average church size in America. It's like, yeah, what they got to do? Man, that's 70 people in our choir. Our church is 14,000 members. I just didn't see myself doing that. And then I just started feeling this tug and this call. I'm going, man, this is crazy.
So did you speak to Erica about it?
I did. And she was just...
That was probably the first person or your parents that you went to, right?
It was my wife first.
And what'd she say?
She just was really like, are you sure you want to do that? Because, to have to put down what I'm doing as a producer.
Yeah.
You're making millions of dollars a year. It's a different lifestyle. To say, okay, I have to stop that. That's what I thought I was going to have to do. I was going to stop doing that altogether and start doing this. And before that, God had been calling me to preach way before that, and I just was saying no. I should back up and say, 2008 is when I really accepted my call to preach. Because in April of 2008, I had been running and saying, no, I don't want to do that. April of 2008, I was diagnosed with renal cell carcinoma, kidney cancer.
I heard about that. Wow.
Yeah, but it was miraculous, man. I remember I got the prognosis, and that was a Friday. It was a Friday. And I had just bought this car. It was a Range Rover. I just got it. I had it maybe a week.
What made you, what were the symptoms of the cancer?
So what happened was I went to the restroom and there was blood in my urine. And I'm like, that was weird. I didn't feel anything. So me and my wife at the time were vegan. We had a chef cooking for us that was vegan. For a year, we had been vegan.
Yeah, that's great.
And so she had just made me this unfiltered, nasty cranberry juice. It was bitter. It was like no sugar. I drank it, went to the bathroom, and red stuff came out. So I'm like, hey. She was like, oh, that cranberry juice probably. I'm like, oh. But I don't know why I thought that, because you don't pee the color you drink. That's like if you drink Gatorade, orange is coming out. No, it's not. It's just, but for some reason that's what I thought at the time. And plus, it never happened again until about 3 weeks later. This time it was like I went out, hanging out with some people. I got home, it's like 3 a.m, and I go to urine again, and this time blood came out again, but it was like dark blood. But there was no pain. I'm going, oh my God, what is that? So I go to the doctor the next day. I say, hey man,
What year was this?
2008, April 2008. Tell my doctor, and shout out to Dr. Michael Malamed. He said, so what's going on? I told him. He said, well, he figured it was, kidney stones. So, well, how high is the pain level? I know those things pretty hurt. It's probably kidney stones. It's like, no, there's no pain at all. He stopped. He says, what? No pain? What do you mean no pain? It's like, no, there was no pain. He was like, his eyes got big as golf balls, man. We have to go get a CAT scan right now. Like, right now. Because I'm afraid something's going on with your kidneys. I'm like, what? I'm like, okay. So we go get the CAT scan. Sure enough, there's a mass on my kidney, as big as a large grapefruit.
Wow.
That was Friday. He sends me to a specialist the next day, which was actually on Monday. And he says, yeah, that's what it is. It's a tumor, but we're just gonna take it out. We're not gonna do any chemo. We don't have to do the way it is. It's tightly. It's just like a big tumor. Nothing's leaking. I don't want to do a biopsy and then possibly spread it. So let's just take it out. So by the time that next Friday, they took it out and found out they had to butterfly it open, cut it open. It was cancerous, and that was that, man. And while during that process, laying on that bed in the hospital, I told God, I said, man, all right, I don't want to have to be one of those guys. 'Cause I heard all these stories about God wanting to use people, calling them to preach and whatnot, and them saying no. One guy, Bishop Darrell Hines, he tells a story about him. He got struck by lightning because he was running. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't get struck by lightning. I don't need to get cancer. I don't okay, yes, God, I'll do whatever. I'll do it. All right. I knew I was going to preach because if me and you were having a conversation, we could be talking about anything. Some kind of way, my mind would connect what we're talking about to a Bible verse. And in my mind, I'll start to formulate an entire sermon. Mm-hmm. No different than how I write a song. I see things, I write songs instantly in my mind. And so that started happening. I would read a billboard. I would read a magazine. I'd have a conversation. I'd hear a song. And word, sermon. I'm like, where's this stuff coming from? God's saying, this is what I want you to do. And I'm like, all right. So same thing with pastoring. So my bishop says, listen, you should think about that. And so I prayed about it, and I told my wife, she was kind of leery about it at first. Even the first couple of months of the church, she was just like, man, this is scary. Because it was just a scary thing to stop your life. And, she put an album out, her first solo album, the same time I was starting that church, and it was just a lot of things happening. And finally, about 2 or 3 months in, we were at church, and it was after church. I had preached. She walked up to me after church and just whispered in my ear. She says, I'm with you. I'm proud of you. I believe God called you to do this. And I just started crying because, who wants to hear God tell him to do something, and your wife, the person who's your champion, the person that you do everything with, doesn't, not that she didn't believe it, I feel like she just didn't want that for us. And she was like, why are we doing this? Because she knows how hard it is. She saw her father go through that, her uncle, and all that kind of stuff. So after a while, she's basically pastoring with me. We don't call her pastor, but she's
First lady.
She's first lady, yeah. Yeah. And that's all I have to say about that.
Does she do her own service? Has she done that by herself the whole
preaching?
Hour? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. She's actually a much better communicator than I am. She's amazing. She's really good, yeah.
Well, I think you're more, what they call laborers terms or something.
Lay terms?
No.
Layton's terms.
Yeah, you get through to the normal more to the normal people. And
Yeah, I don't talk in what they
There's a
call.
hell of a lot more normal people than,
True.
and that's why, we need someone like you, man. I think Joel
I try not
Osteen's
to
kind
talk
of
in
like that.
they call it Christianese. I try not to use technical biblical terms too much because I remember going to church and like everything they said was over my head and stuff. I'm like, it's one of the reasons why I didn't want to go. Like it's like they're trying to impress people with how many big words they found in the dictionary. You know what I mean? Like, miss me with all that, man. Just tell me what I need to know so I can live better, Get me to that point and then,
I'm learning as a Christian so much. I think my strengths, I guess, I know what my strengths are. And I know my weaknesses. My weaknesses is easy. I'm not, my faith, I feel like I'm as strong as I can be, in it, but I don't know as much as I should. Reading the Bible more, understanding it more. I think my strength, though, and I think it's a real strong strength, is bringing people to the Lord.
Discipleship.
Bringing them to God, man. Putting God in their life, because I think there's that's kind of easy almost.
Yeah.
And
you're a soul winner, man. That's what you do. I see you do it all the time. Prince probably can attest to this as well.
A soul winner.
A soul winner. Every man, every human, every life is a soul. And when you meet somebody and you're able to lead them to Christ, that's a soul one that you won. That's a we call that a jewel in your crown. When you get to heaven, God's gonna say, man, this guy, there's a lot of souls that'll be here in heaven with you because you introduced them to me.
Yeah.
And that is part of the role of every Christian. We're all supposed to be disciples or making disciples. Go out into the world to every creature, making disciples. That's what you're doing. That's the Great Commission, right? Is to let everybody know about Christ. Part of the mission of our church is to know Christ and to make Christ known. That's it.
What percentage of the people, I think it's so high, that want the Lord in their life? They want God in their life, but they put it off. They haven't found it yet. They haven't made the commitment to go there. Mm-hmm. That's what I've noticed with so many people, because when I talk to them, they come right out so fast. Like, yeah, man, I need God in my life. And like, I'm looking at them going,
yeah,
there's so many people, and especially guys. There's a lot of guys that are running that when you were younger, when you were married, all those side distractions and stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many people going through that. Now, what do you tell them to straighten out before it's self-destructive?
Well, I mean,
young guys that are in relationships where the girl's waiting for a commitment, and these guys have that commitment thing is so.
Well, I mean, we are a product.
What do you tell your son if he's one of them?
It's funny that you say that. I was walking with my son, and I do mantras with my son where I tell him to repeat things. And I say, what kind of man are you? The first thing he'll say is, I'm a godly man, right? I say, what else? He'll say, I'm a Campbell man. I say, what else? He'll go, I'm a black man. I'm a Holy Ghost filled man. I'm a wise man. And one day I was walking with him. We were doing that, and I just said, repeat after him. Say, I will not cheat on my wife. He's 3. I don't want that life for him so bad.
How old is he?
He's 10 now, but at the time he was 3 when I was like,
I don't hang with my daughter one day, Leah.
Oh yeah, she's the same age.
She's runs right to the front in church.
Really?
Yeah, like when the pastor said, "Who wants Jesus in their life?" Boom, raise your hand. Like, I'm looking at 7 years old at the time.
Wow.
6 years old, and then when they say, "Come on down here," she just gets out of the seat, runs down there. I have all this on film. It's like amazing.
Wow. My son is kind of like that. My son preached his
Yeah.
first message 2 years ago.
We got to make them meet one day.
Yeah, bring him. I'll bring him up here. He's been here before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but I any young man who thinks, and the thing is like I said before, I was starting to say it's about environment. I think the things that you think are cool or think that you want, trying to be cool is, the cool thing is to have a bunch of women, right? You think you want that.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know that you don't want that, or you can't use that, or that's not going to make you happy until you're older sometimes. Kind of like your kids, right? They want to eat candy all the time, or cake, or whatever it is, right? And man, it tastes good now, but it's going to get fat. You're going to get diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
The teeth are going to rot out. All these things are going to happen bad from what tastes good. And that is basically the keys to most sin of the flesh. Like, it's going to feel good. It's going to taste good. It's going to smell good. But man, it's not good. Eve eats an apple. It tastes good. But look what happened. It ruined the world. You know what I'm saying? That's a metaphor for everything that we do in life. Don't eat of that fruit. That fruit is not going to yield any more good fruit. And so I just believe, and I tell every young person, doing things God's way gets God's results. You can't expect God's results and do things the opposite of what he would want you to do, because now you're out of order. Everything's out of misplaced. If you have sex out of wedlock, then unmarital sex, it could lead to having a child out of wedlock, which could lead to a broken home, which could lead to, now you got all these things you have to put back together. And things are just kind of all out of the order is not there that God designed. He designed it like that for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think that's why the world is so messed up.
Man.
Because like they, I guess your message, like you just said, hasn't been, exposed, I guess, or something to all these.
And young people don't think it's cool. It's not like, it's not sexy. You know what I'm saying? So that's why
it actually is.
I
though,
think
in
God
a way,
is
having
calling
a
me.
beautiful woman and then having God in your life.
Yeah. No,
it
when I
is.
say I'm saying they don't think it's sexy.
Yeah.
It actually is very sexy.
It is.
But I'm saying I think God called me to expose the sexiness of being a believer and doing things God's way.
Yeah.
Having one wife and growing a family and just establishing family more values and stuff like that. I think God is calling me and others like me to establish, like, no, this is actually the coldest thing to do. This is the best way to be. You know what I mean? Just to be in order. You know what I mean? To be a disciplined person, to live a disciplined life. You know what I'm saying? To have good morals and have respect for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Those things, especially if you're in a home where you don't have a father, man, that stuff is not taught.
Well, yeah.
It's not always.
I come across a lot of kids that come in here, young, athletic, good-looking, teenagers or whatever, and no father in their life. Father's in jail. I'm going, oh my God, man. And then they're supporting their mom.
Yeah.
And they want me to train them. That's kind of where, like, at times I train them. Just come. I just say, forget about it. That backfires a lot of times in my business, I guess. Hopefully, because I remember one time it was a gym I had on Sherman Way. When, I'm just all stressed out about my bills and stuff, right? I'm looking at everything and I'm going to go, oh my God, how am I going to pay these things, man? And then I look at in the gym, there's like 30 people. And then I looked at them and I said, like 20 of them don't even pay me.
Wow.
Because they come with stories.
Yeah.
Please take my son off the street. He needs this. He loves this. We can't afford it.
Yeah.
And then I don't know if, like, the word around the street is that you could tell Phil's story. You get in there free.
But
That's
think
what
about
I
it,
was
man.
thinking, man. And that's when I don't know. It's hard. It's so damn hard. I hope I have a different calling, though. I hope God's got it. I think God has a different calling for me.
Well, what you're doing is ministry, Phil. It's ministry, man. And in ministry, there are things that happen, man, where it's just we're servants. In ministry, we're called to be servants. We're some people think of ministry as this kind of like this badge of honor, right? Which I think it's an honorable thing, but it's not something that you go like, oh yeah, I'm a pastor. I'm like I'm the president of the United States. I'm a servant, man. I serve, and there's a passage in 1 Corinthians 4:9 that tells you what ministry is like. And if you read that passage in the Message Bible, man, it's basically talking about you and what you do and who we are. It says, it seems to me that God has put us who bear his name and bear his message on a stage in a theater in which no one wants to buy a ticket. That's what ministry is like. You're on stage, on display. You have the grace of God in your life. He's calling everybody to look at you, but you're in a theater, and nobody wants to buy a ticket.
When I had that, I've had people say to me when they've come into my gym, they get a feeling. They say, I feel the Lord in here. I feel the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
And I used to be like, wow, that's
man.
That's good.
But, the good thing is nobody has to buy a ticket. When you're doing the work of the Lord, the work of God's work, he'll provide.
Yeah. That's what that was the lesson I got from that, what was his name, JoJo? JJ? What was it?
JJ, yeah.
JJ, that was the lesson I learned from that. Just hang in there, do God's work, and it's like there's benefits, like the benefits will be you're doing
the work though. So that particular lesson was there was a prophet that came in town, and everybody around JJ said, "Hey man, you got a great voice. You should be on radio." And he started saying, "Yeah, I always wanted to do radio."
Okay, yeah.
Man, you got this great voice. There was a prophet that came in town that didn't know JJ at all and said, "Hey, the Lord told me to tell you that radio job is yours. It's yours. Do you have faith?" He said, "Yeah, I got faith." "No, but do you have faith?" He said, "Yeah, I have faith." "Okay, if you have faith, that job is yours." And JJ waited around for that job and never got it. Why? Because JJ never picked up the phone. He never went to the radio station. Faith without works is dead. That's what the Bible says. I have the faith for it, but if I don't, I can have the faith for it. People can prophesy over my life. If I don't get up and move and make the faith moves, FM, toward the promise, then it's going to die. You're already doing the work. So I don't think your faith is going to die. Your faith will be, and God's going to do something for you to encourage your faith. Watch, you'll see it. It'll explode. You'll be like, man, I'm doing this work and I have this faith, and God he'll reward all of that. Trust me. That's his nature. That's what he does.
You're in a ring, right? You're in a fight. You got gloves on. Toe to toe.
Mm-hmm.
30 seconds left. Fight of your life in a ring. Big crowd. Toe to toe. Who wins?
Me, every time.
You, TD Jake. Huh?
Why do you say that every day I come in the gym? You're like, I'm going to prepare you for a fight with TD Jake. I'm like, are you kidding me? First of all, TD Jake's is 7'3".
Oh, is he?
How
about Kurt Franklin?
No, Kirk is 4'8". That's not going to do him either.
Who else is there, man?
I wouldn't fight any of my friends. I'm not friends with TD Jakes, but I am friends with Kirk Franklin. I love TD Jakes. He's a general, man. I have much respect for him. But I would never get in the ring with him. I saw TD Jakes.
How about George Foreman?
No.
Like the fight of the pastors.
I would not fight George Foreman.
How could you think that show would sell, man?
No.
Fight of the pastors, man?
I don't
Fighting
think it
each
would
other?
sell. Listen, I saw TD
George
Jakes.
Foreman calls you out.
He just called me out. I'm not getting in the ring with George Foreman.
Why not?
First of all, he's George Foreman.
And I'm Phil Paolina. We'll get you right.
He knocked out
It don't matter.
Frazier.
But your idol knocked him out. So why can't you do
I
it?
wouldn't get in a ring with him either.
Well, you can.
Have you seen George Foreman in person?
Doesn't matter.
Have you seen him?
He's a human being, 2 hands. That's
Have
all
you seen one of his hands? His hand as big as his boxing glove.
So,
man.
all right.
You wouldn't get in a ring with George Foreman because
Yes, I would.
if he accidentally hits you, man, he's gonna split your wig in two. It's a
No,
wrap.
man. That's not true.
But listen, I saw T.D. Jakes preach with a lion on stage, and the lion.
Got scared?
Yes, the lion. He stared at the lion so long that the lion got tamed. Man, I'm like, yeah. He just started looking at the lion, just staring at him like, and the lion like didn't want. Oh, I was like, yo, it was crazy. It was this big cage they had it covered up, and him and the lion staring at each other. Man, T.D. Jakes is a beast. He's like.
I'm trying to get you some.
Crazy, right?
I'm trying to get you some fights, man, where you win. I was
Hey,
trying
man.
to get you Billy Graham, but
Listen,
he's unavailable.
I fight every day. I'm a black man. I got to fight to make it home. That's my fight. I got to fight to make it home to my wife and kids every night. When I leave here, I'm trying not to do anything or get involved in anything that's going to prevent me from getting home to my wife and kids. That's the fight I'm fighting every single day of my life, just because I walk around in this skin, man, and that's good enough for me. This coming here helps me prepare for that. You can put a button on that. Come on, man.
Yeah. So, how do you like boxing, training wise?
I love it. I love it, man. I think one, it's the discipline of it. You know, I had to learn how to, and I'm not at all any kind of expert at all, but just learning to control my emotions and not come in and punch angry. One day I felt it. I know because you kept asking me, man, what's wrong with you? My godmother had passed away, and the day after that training session, that was a Thursday. On that Friday, next day, I was going to have to preach her eulogy at her.
Oh, wow.
And I was in here, man. I was hitting. He was like, man, who you mad at? I was like, man, I had to get it out. Either it was that or just cry. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm not crying in front of Phil today. I'm going to beat the crap out this bag. So it's a way, sometimes when you're frustrated, I left here feeling so much better, man. Like, and I knew I had to get here. I'm like, I had to get here and let me just fight through it. You know what I mean? Because I do not want to do this, to bury my godmother and preach this eulogy. Man, I don't want to do it. I know I have to do it, and I have to do a good job at it. And everything, I'm nerves, and what do I say the right thing? I'm sad because she's gone. All these things are kind of like swirling around, man. I'm like, in boxing, I came in here and just worked out. And I left like, man, 20 pounds lighter. Figuratively, I wish it worked like that. But it helps.
We'll get there, man.
No, yeah, we're going to get there for sure. And
you got a big road ahead of you, man. I'm telling you. I see it.
Yeah?
Big, man.
Well,
you're gonna need somebody. You're gonna need somebody to hold you up. And come on, man, don't be afraid. Keep going, man.
That's one thing.
It's gonna be big, man, Warren.
That's one thing. I ain't never scared. I'm just like, I tell my kids, don't get scared. Just get prepared. We don't get scared. We get prepared. We don't get nervous. We get ready. And whatever. My prayer is for me and for you, and for everybody listening, that God prepares you for what He has prepared for you, because what He has prepared for you is bigger than what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so prepare your heart, prepare your mind, and stay ready. Stay classy, San Diego.
Hey, I just had a couple of more questions, man. I don't know, Warren. It's like I'm a father like you.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm realizing myself that it's like God's got to come first.
Yeah. That's the order.
And it sounds like almost, you got family, you got loved ones, you got and you say God first.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only way to. It all comes together.
You have to. You got to put God first. Think about it. Why would I not put God first when he put me first? Instead of condemning me to hell, he says, okay, because I love you so much, instead of sacrificing you and killing you, I'll take my only son. I'll let him die in your place. He put us first, establishing and setting up the order of how things should go. We were put on earth. The Bible even says it. We were here. We were formed and shaping here to worship God, to bring God glory, to bring glory to his name. That's it. That's our chief purpose for breathing, is to bring God glory. That's it, right? And so just by knowing that I have to put him first, putting him first is giving him glory. Like, I don't make decisions without considering whether or not this is something that God wants me to do. Is it going to bring me shame or bring him glory? Or, I don't just do things that I just think of, like is this something? Is this the will of God for my life? Do I want it? Does God want me to do this, or is this me? Do I want to do this? Because if I want to do it, I'll say, okay, let me find out what God wants me to do first. Let me look back and sit back and pray and hear from the Lord, and just see what He wants me to do first before because there's a lot of things I want to do that I'm not supposed to do. You know what I mean? That I'm not necessarily. I'm qualified to do it, but the time is not now, or He just doesn't want me to do it yet. Whatever it is, if I go ahead and do it, then I'm moving on my own recognizance. I'm doing what I want to do, my will, but it's not supposed to be that way. It's God, your will first, and then whatever after that. If I do your will, guess what? My wants and stuff that I want to do will be fulfilled. That's what I believe.
Hey, I know this guy, a very successful producer in town, but he's a non-believer. He's married to a believer. Mm-hmm. And he calls me up one day. He always he says he's learned everything. He's practiced almost a whole bunch of different religions, and he just doesn't believe that there's anything there. And he leaves a message one time. He goes, "Where's your God now with this pandemic? Why is your God making this pandemic happen?" I got the message from him when we first started, this COVID thing was happening, when everybody was freaking out, the stores, it looked like everybody was going to die. It looked like the end of the world.
Yeah.
I was so worried about that. How do you answer that?
Where's your God in this pandemic, and why did He let this pandemic happen?
Yeah.
Well, my answer is this. In the beginning, if you look at the book of Genesis, it says God created the heavens and the earth. 6 days He created everything, including man. Then He talks to man. He speaks to them and says, I want you to take the earth, subdue it, and everything in it, have dominion over it, which means to control it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if God runs the world and controls everything in the world, then that scripture in Genesis is lies. What does that mean? God made the world. He owns it. But He gave it to us as a gift to run it. Right? Mm-hmm. So He doesn't run the world. We do. Our decisions, our choices, that governs everything, right? He then takes our good decisions and blesses them. And in our bad decisions, He corrects them because He's God. But it's all based on our decisions. It's no different than somebody saying, somebody going into a grocery store and shooting up a bunch of people. Why did God let that happen? God didn't let that man do that. He didn't tell that. That's a choice. We are. The Bible says we are free moral agents. He gave us. You do what you want to do. He doesn't control you.
So an innocent person who's a believer, God believer, gets killed right there, murdered or whatever.
If he's a believer, thank God he went to heaven.
Yeah.
But that's not God's doing. He's not going to do that or allow it. He just, or he didn't make it happen. But it's a human choice. He gave us choice. Let me tell you why though.
Why do people? Again, I'm not saying I believe anything. I'm saying this. I'm just saying these are things I hear. Then when a miracle happens, why do people give God praise?
Because the Bible says, in all things give God thanks. It's a miracle. He's a miracle worker. That's what he does.
And somebody gets murdered or dies.
Because
I'm just saying, like,
man,
God's like responsible for that miracle.
Yeah.
But yet God's not responsible for that.
Let me ask you this. Have you ever done a miracle?
Have I ever done a miracle?
Yeah.
It could almost be considered maybe
a miracle. By definition, the miraculous is
I
something that
people
a man cannot do. It's miraculous. It's not tangible by man's hands.
Yeah, I guess so.
See what I'm saying?
I was thinking bringing certain non-believers to church is almost a miracle. But
no, that's not a miracle. That's a duty. That's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah, okay.
That's discipleship. A miracle is, I was sick, diagnosed with cancer on Friday, cancer-free in 7 days. That's a miracle. A miracle is I had asthma. My mom prays for me and says, now go confess and tell the doctor that God healed me this asthma. I'm 3 years old. I don't have asthma anymore. God healed me. And I've never had an asthma attack again. That's a miracle.
Yeah.
We give God praise for those things because only God could do that, right? The things that happen on this earth, God's not here on the earth. We are. We're here. We're making these crazy decisions and doing all this heinous stuff. You know what I'm saying? And God has gave us free will. We could do it. But think about this. Would you want your free will taken away from you?
No.
He's not going to do it.
Last question. Last one. Donald Trump.
McDonald Trump, yes.
Donald Trump.
Did you watch Borat, the new Borat? He calls him McDonald Trump. McDonald Trump.
He sat down with Trump?
No, he just kept, he was referring to him because he's like his country. Donald Trump is their hero. Wow. I went to go meet McDonald Trump.
Well, Donald Trump, man, what do you? I'm Donald Trump right now. What would you say to me?
I'll say, hey, Donald, listen, man.
Like
I know.
Excuse me 1 second. I'm Donald Trump coming to you as a pastor.
Mm-hmm.
You know, seeking what's wrong. Why do people?
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to do the right thing. I do the right thing. All these thousands of people are happy over here. They love me. These, not as many. I don't know. I don't know the percentage or whatever. But it's like, they love me. They hate me.
Mm-hmm.
Warren, I need help. It's like I want everyone to be happy.
I'll say, Donald, man.
What am I doing wrong?
In your heart of hearts, in your deepest thoughts, do you really, really, really think you're right? Be honest. Don't give me the political answer. Don't give me some cockamamie. Give me the answer that you know in your heart when you go to sleep at night, when you pull the covers over your head. Do you really think you're right? And if you could tell me yes, then I don't have anything else to say.
Referring to what, though, when you say
him right. Even running for president in the first place. See, the reason Donald Trump ran for president was he did it to be vindictive and funny. He didn't think he was going to win. He got reamed at a state dinner by Obama and embarrassed because Obama said something crazy to him and made fun of him, and the whole room laughed at him. The entire room turned and laughed at Donald Trump. If you've been seeing his entire presidency, it's mostly been about who likes him and who doesn't. Everybody likes me. My inauguration is bigger than everybody else's. I'm doing great. You know, all these things, right? At that dinner, because you remember he came out against Obama, calling, we need to see his birth certificate and all these crazy things, right? So he showed up to Obama's state dinner. So, okay, I heard Donald Trump is here. And he let him have it. He said, and the whole room was laughing. You could see Donald Trump is steaming. He said, okay, I'm going to run for president. I'm going to run. He has no political experience. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a reality TV guy. He's a failed entrepreneur, really. He's a trust fund baby. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like he knows anything about politics for real. On top of that, he's a documented racist by history and by his own family members. So I would say, Donald, come on, man. You know you didn't do this with the best of intentions. Be honest.
And he might say, yeah, you're right, but I won.
Yeah, but now, he said, yeah, but I won. I said, but now you see since you've won, you know, be honest about what's happening in our country.
Yeah, but he'll say how much he fixed, like before before he was elected. The country was in a tremendous problems, and he fixed
what?
All these people are happy over here.
Where are you getting this data from? Because he didn't. What did he fix? He didn't fix anything. Unemployment is lower. I've done more for the black people. No, you have not. That's a lie. Unemployment is an all-time high. It's lower than when you started, much lower. And so, but he says things. The thing is, he just says stuff, and people go, okay, but because nobody actually looking at the actual data. Like, that's not true. Everything he's saying, that's why people are so upset. You got to think about why are people so inflamed? If I sat here and knowingly told you lies all day, every time I open my mouth, you'd be pissed off at me. Like, why you stop lying to me? What are you talking about? That's all he does. I want him to tell the truth one time. Just once. Just say something that's true one time. I mean, from the beginning all the way up to now with lies. With lies.
All right, so if they're lies, right?
Uh-huh.
Why don't they just throw them out?
They can't. Listen, they tried. They tried to impeach the guy and couldn't. Listen, he's doing stuff that's unprecedented.
How could you get away with that?
Huh?
How is it?
Because he's
money?
sitting in the seat. They asked him to denounce white supremacy, and he would not do it. You know what he told them to do? Stand back and stand by. What does stand by mean? What does stand by mean? Just wait for stand by means wait for my signal.
Yeah.
That's what that means, right? He would not do it. So, again, I would get with him and say, Donald, come on, man. You know this isn't right. Just chill. Like, you're at the twilight in your life. You did it. You became president. You did all this stuff. Turn the country back over to the people that really know what they're doing, as bad as they are. You know what I'm saying? But at least get out of that because you're making it worse. You're making a bad thing worse. Leave that alone before we really end up with a real civil war in our own country. Because we've been great. God has been good to us. God has shown us mercy in this country. We have not had war since the Civil War on our land. We're close to it, I think, because of his leadership. And so I said, Donald, before some real damage happens to this country, why don't you just concede and say, hey, man, you know what? I'm not going to run again. Go sit down somewhere and let the other guys put the Band-Aids on all the holes that you've created. Amen.
Amen, yeah. Wow.
But I just know when I go to other countries, they take the government seriously. They're not going to hire their local guys, pop star to run the country. They're not going to, no matter where. I've hung out all over the world, man, and I'm thinking man, they're just so different than our country. Sometimes America just does some really dumb stuff, It makes me ashamed.
All right, so you won't box T.D. Jake, but if you had a chance to get in the ring with Donald Trump?
I wouldn't box Donald Trump, man. It's like this guy. It's like boxing a baby. He can't defend himself. What is he going to do? I would beat the brakes off of Donald Trump just like I would a 3-year-old. It's the same thing. Yeah, I mean, he's like, you ever watch those Back to the Future movies?
Yeah.
Remember Biff? Remember when Biff took over the world for a minute and like Biff was running everything because he found the almanac and had all this money and the town was ruined and shambles. Donald Trump is Biff Tannen from Back to the Future. He's basically Biff. That's who he is.
Well, Warren, it was a pleasure, man, having you here.
Pleasure's all mine, brother.
I wish I could say that about tomorrow when I train you. No, that's not true. Really, man, thank you so much for coming by.
Man, I appreciate it, man. It was my pleasure. It was fun.
I think you're going to save a lot of lives just from what you said today.
Oh, man, from your mouth to God's ears, brother.
Yeah.